than 80% of practice in psychiatry is in the realm of private practice. It's not in institutes. That is something we all need to accept. Though very little attention is paid during our MD course on what is private practice, how should we start your private practice, how do we develop our practice, and how do we successfully continue our practice across time. And so what is also very important is that the status of practice has changed across decades. When I started my practice, we used to read novels and we used to come on motorbikes to our clinics. But as of now, I see all young doctors coming in cars and they're having roaring practice from day one. And that's also because of great awareness and also because of increase in number of patients. The brain has not changed its size, shape, color, texture, volume, and in any form, but in the environment, the frequency of cases which we see has really increased to a very great extent. The number of psychiatrists has not increased. As I start my presentation, I would like to share some of my own views and see if it makes any sense to you. If it does, think about it. If it does not, you can spit it, just like a pan eater in India spits the produce of his pan in his mouth. It's entirely up to you. My 6 mantras, which I've been speaking about for a very long time, when I used to talk to people in private practice, are about the 6 mantras are being aware, being affable, being available, being accessible, affordable, and average skills. Let me start by the word affable. Affability would not mean that you're smiling. Affability would mean the person across feels that you care for him. You are reasonably conscious of the fact that people feel nice to be with you. Your affability is reasonably good. That would not mean that you're smiling all the time. That would not mean that you're speaking all the time. The aura about you in the clinic is the patient feels wanted, needed, and cared, and that is affability. In fact, you might have some doctors who talk very less, and some patients love that. They said, "मोजका बोलतो, जितना बोलना चाहिए उतना ही बोलता है, ज़्यादा नहीं बोलता है." And actually, when you look at the waiting room of doctors, you can predict the personality of the psychiatrist or the doctor who's practicing. So being affable is extremely important in private practice. Being available. I still remember when I started my practice, there were many doctors who were practicing at every suburb in the city of Bombay. And nobody would remember where they are on Monday, where they're on Tuesday, where they're on Wednesday, where they're on Thursday, 2 hours here, 1 hour here, 2 hours here, morning here, evening here. So it's very difficult to really understand where are you available. When I mean available, you can see a fixed number of patients in a day. So why sit at 10 places? Even sitting in 1 or 2 places is more than enough to actually have a great practice. And then the patients know that you're available at this place, and that I think is very, very important. The third important is accessible. You may be available, but you may not be accessible. You may have an interface through a secretary or through somebody who picks up your calls. That's perfectly all right. But as long as the patient knows that in emergency, my doctor is available to me, is something very, very important and very, very interesting to understand. Now, when you look at this business of accessible, in case of emergency, you need to be accessible. If you're not accessible, somebody else has to be accessible. So in your team, somebody else has to be accessible. So being affable, being available, being accessible. Affordable, yes. No, some doctors feel that they need to charge a fixed amount of fees and they would only want to cater to certain sections of the society. What is the most successful practitioners have a sliding scale to a point that the upper limit is fixed, but the lower limit is flexible. And people like me would believe that no patient should leave you just because for want of money. And that also is a very important attribute in practice. Well, average skills are more than enough to have a roaring practice, because skills is something which develops across time. It's not something which happens automatically. So being affable, available, accessible, affordable, and average skills are more than enough to start a decent practice. The last is awareness. Awareness is that you're in touch with your thoughts, feelings, and sensations. You're aware of what's happening inside you when you see a patient. Do you feel angry? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel scared? Do you feel joyous? Do you feel sadness? Do you feel affectionate towards the patient? And this awareness is so important that we continue our interaction with the patient in a manner which is very balanced, equitable, and effective. Well, again, what is very important is that 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 though awareness is very good, though awareness is extremely important, awareness also helps you to improve your skills, also helps you to improve your skills, and awareness also helps you to upgrade your skills. And when you're aware of what is happening inside you, you're able to upgrade your skills from good, average to excellent as time passes. You're not stuck at one point of time. So my six mantras, which is extremely important, is that one needs to understand is that all what is happening is important, but this 6 months will help you to take your issues across, of which if you are not available, but you are very good in your skills, no good. If you're not available and accessible and you're not affable, you may be extremely good in your skills, it's no good. Though I would say that anybody who says I could not build my practice, I would say at this point of time in life in India, there's something wrong with the person, not with the place where you practice. Now you could be actually practicing at different in a slum, in any place in the country. It could be a town, it could be a slum, it could be a city, it could be a metro, it could be in a place which has middle class households. It could be a place which has higher income households, or it could be a place where they would have lower income households. But the point is, everybody is a human being, and that I think is very important. We are treating the Homo sapiens, and that is very important. Now, as we start a practice, there are three things I would like to be very clear. Never share your wallet, share your knowledge. No need to split your income ever in your life. That will not give you a nice feeling as you go home. Somebody would say, give me 30%, I'll refer you patient. No, I will not give you a single person. I'll share my knowledge. I'll build your capacities as a family doctor. I'll build your capacities as a psychiatrist. If you're running a halfway home or a rehab center, I will never share my wallet. I will only share my knowledge. That's number one. Number two, which is very important, is I do not like teachers who call their students across life. The teacher is 52, the student is 44. ये मेरा student है. The teacher is 70, the student is 62. ये मेरा student है. No. As you pass, your teacher should call you your colleague and not your student. It is the approach and the attitude of the student who regards his teacher as teacher. And he should say, he's my teacher. I'm proud of him, sir. I'm proud of you, sir. You have really given me a lot. So a mentor should not call his student a student across life. I've seen in many conferences, psychiatrists who are 70 plus call psychiatrists who are 62 plus, ye to mera student tha. Most of the times, it's not a good thing to hear. I would say every veteran, because we're addressing veterans also, as the student passes off, he is your colleague. I've always called every psychiatrist who has worked with me in my clinic my colleague and never my student. And that I think is very, very important. But all of us start practicing with a lot of influence of your mentor, of your teacher, probably, or your institute. And sometimes it becomes too much. Never have one mentor in your life. You need mentors across the horizon. I will tell you, in certain places, in certain cities, just hide the name of the psychiatrist, look at the prescription, and you can predict who's the psychiatrist very easily. And that means awareness is missing and you're not growing from where you actually started. There are favorite medications, there are favorite prescriptions, there are favorite illnesses. And if you model around one mentor, you'll be stuck all your life. So never have one mentor, have many mentors, in your life. And as you listen to the presentation, remember this could be one perspective, and you need to hear a million other perspectives from various other practitioners and great practitioners across the country who are there both in mofussil areas and villages and towns as well as in cities. So remember, in practice, always have mentors and not a mentor. Now, as I've said, there are many doctors who say, I love ECTs. There are many others who say, I love amitriptyline. There are so many others who say, I love acetalopram. You can't love any molecule. Ask yourself, like a school teacher should ask himself, what are the names of the children whom you do not remember in your class across a year? How many students you have never interacted, or you interact very less? You generally are with certain number of students. And that is known as confirmation bias, which means I have been practicing, but I have been prescribing this antidepressant more often than the others. And are you aware of certain medications you have never prescribed? So, for example, I'm aware as of now that aripiprazole and paroxetine is something which I rarely prescribe because of my awareness. I'm exploring places where I can prescribe that. I see other psychiatrists prescribing that much more than what I do. So break your confirmation bias about medications, about treatment processes, which are important for patients with different illnesses, which means that look at all, I would say it's a good exercise to write on all the molecules available in India and stare at it, look at it and find out what are the molecules you don't prescribe. Probably you had one phobic reaction with one molecule and one patient has had a lot of adverse effects and you stop prescribing that molecule for a very long time. Or you loved one molecule which really gave you positive results during the first years of practice, you're continuing using the same molecule across time. So what is very important is break the confirmation bias and not have one molecule or a few molecules which are your favorites. And don't say, I love this molecule. You can't love any molecule. You can use every molecule with discretion, with the scientific knowledge which you have. Now, remember one thing, my dear friends. We have approximately 12 to 14% of morbidity and mental illness, but there are 86% of patients who have no mental illness. And a large number of patients who come to us also have no mental illness. They come with small problems. The scenario of the United States is repeating in India. In the United States, they come to psychologists, psychiatrists, because so many of them have no relatives to talk to. There's alienation, there is disconnection. And that is what is happening in a society which has absorbed the fruits of globalization, but also hugged the adverse effects of globalization. Which means what? Which means it's very important to have a lot of skills to tolerate, to heal, and to treat a lot of patients who are between normal and illness. And these patients would need a lot of counseling, a lot of little shop talk, a lot of reassurance, a lot of probably simple soft therapies, and also probably a small amount of medications. So life is not about only the 14% which have illness, but we are dealing with 100%, which means 86% of those who have no illness at all. And that I think is so important across time. So you are not dealing with the mental ill, you're dealing with 100% population. Patients who come and say, I do not get along with my father, I do not get along with my husband, I do not get along with my son or my daughter, I do not get along with my grandparents. So we have all such patients who come to us, and they may not be patients, they are people. Now in your practice, remember, you need to have many avatars. Well, avatar is an English word after that movie, Avatar, but avatar. Doctors who have many avatars and they use it effectively with different patients, do extremely well. If you understand, probably there are 4 or 5 types of patients. One is the cognitive patient, very cognitive. He needs a logical explanation for his illness. He needs a logical explanation for his symptoms. He needs a logical explanation for the medicine which you give. And he loves reading articles. And before he reads articles on his own, please send him links for him to read so that he reads it. And this cognitive patient is very happy when you say, well, in the latest research, which you have actually seen, these are the symptoms, and they could be most probably these illnesses. And in all the evidence-based research which we have seen, these are the probable treatment choices. Would you want to explore that? They're very happy. Then you have emotional patients. Whatever you say, I will do. I have complete faith in you. It's not obedience. It's aap jo bolenge hum karenge. I mean, whatever you say, I will do, because I feel so enamored by your presence. I feel that you have been successful across with a lot of my friends, and I'm very emotional about the fact that I believe what you will do, and I will do what you exactly want me to do. Then there is the obedient patient, absolutely procrastinating, pura samarpit bhavana, and absolutely would follow your advice to the T. Then you have that obsessive patient who needs a lot of reassurance and is always unhappy that he has not shared everything with you and you would not have understood the patient. The best thing to say, tell the obsessive patient, I may not be the right patient, the right doctor for you. There could be somebody else. I mean, you say somebody else, they come back to you and much faster than they have left you. And then there's this paranoid patient. Why did you prescribe the medicines? Why do you think I've got paranoid schizophrenia? Why do you think I have depression? I may be just demoralized. I may be just disappointed. I may not be depressed. So paranoid patients also push them away. They come back to you. Well, you don't see classical obedient patients or obedient. Classical patients who are emotional. My Huna really works with emotional patients. Classical patients who are cognitive. Classical patients who are obsessive, or classical patients who are paranoid. They could be a mixture, but the point is, be aware of the predominant characteristics of patients for you to understand what avatar you need to show. Some of them are very religious, and if you talk to them about God and their own religion, if you really are aware of a lot of things about their culture, it really builds a rapport and really helps you to increase your practice. It also helps you to get a flock of a large number of patients. So practicing many avatars in your practice is extremely useful. Do not allow your core personality trait to overwhelm you. Across time, learn different cultures, learn different personalities, different characteristics, and respond to them accordingly without compromising your science. Very true, my dear friends. I still remember my friend Professor Vimla from TSS once told me, Harish, you are like a potato. You can blend with anybody. I said, no, I'm not a potato, but mental health professionals at this point of time in life, at this point of time in this era, they need to be potato. Potatoes mix around with, can blend with any vegetable or a non-vegetarian dish. It increases the taste and the palatability of the dish without compromising its own originality. It adds value, but it retains its real originality. Mental professionals have to be like potatoes. They need to blend in every environment and see that they enrich in that environment. If they're in a hospital with different other specialties, they need to blend with that environment, thereby retaining the taste and also making yourself affable with with people from other disciplines of medicine. It's so important that you should not be a, a vegetable which is immiscible, immixable, and not very friendly with all other vegetables. Potato is a lovely vegetable which can mix with prawns, chicken, mutton, any vegetable, and still is fantastic. So this is one of the most important metaphors. And how do you become a potato? I think a mental professional who's a great listener can cultivate this habit and is able to mingle and influence others about the field of mental health, and that also helps you to be accepted by the larger fraternity, and thereby improves the respectability of mental health as a profession and improves the respectability of all mental professionals around you. Remember, we are a young science. We are a younger discipline. In major hospitals, our names come at the end. Psychiatry comes at the end. And psychiatry is not a money spinning discipline for hospital, but psychiatry is extremely important. Unfortunately, every consultant from other specialties would get one family member, because 1 out of 7 people are mentally ill. As you know, 2019 Ministry of Welfare and ICMR said 20 crore Indians are mentally ill. 1 out of 7 are mentally ill, much more than what Niman said 3 years ago. So in spite of that, you'll find that that the respectability one has in a bunch of other consultants is much less, and acceptability. They say you're very nice, you're very good. You treated my wife, my husband. But the point is, when I refer, I don't think my patient will go to you. So being a potato will help you to really mix around. Having many avatars will help you to sell our science much better. All of us have a unique selling potential as a consultant, and use it to the best of your ability. But see that these unique selling potentials are also improvised and change as time passes. Now, are you a generalist or a specialist? Find out. So many of us are more comfortable to practice one discipline majorly. In the sense, somebody would say, I want to practice only child psychiatry. I've been trained for that in UK and abroad or probably in demands. I would want to practice geriatric psychiatry. Comfort in one sub-discipline of mental health is normal. There's nothing abnormal about it at all. But what is very also important is at this point of time, we need a lot of generalists because the number of psychiatrists are very few, and the sea of humanity who are mentally ill are so big that we actually need to have more generalists than specialists. Now, let's look at this concept of, are you a patient-based doctor or a people-based doctor? The metaphor of putting my friend's picture is because this man is a patient-based doctor and also a people-based doctor. And he's there in Angel Foundation, in many other community activities, and is very visible. And I really admire Dr. Psa for having multiple roles inside him, because all of us have multiple identities. We may be a psychiatrist, maybe a father, we may be a son, we are a brother, we are a brother-in-law, we are the head of any organization, we are head of a building, we're head of probably a community. So we always wear multiple hats. I always believed, and probably you might accept or you might not accept, that if you're only patient-based doctor, you fall sick very early. Your burnout is very fast. From the day I started my practice, I said, one day in a week, I will go and talk to the community. And believe me, for the last 30 years, not 20 years, 30 years, I've been seeing, I've been at least going once a week on an average to probably a school or an educational institution or a corporate to spread mental awareness. And that was my joy. It was not an attempt to increase practice. But remember, if I've gone to a school 10 years back or 20 years back, those same kids come to me afterwards. Then I realized I'm like the NIE Times of India paper for students. All the newspaper industry started some newspaper for students in schools because they wanted to really inculcate and influence the kids right early of the brand. And I did not do it for that. I just believe that I need to keep myself healthy. And if I meet more people than patients, my mental health will be very good, which means if you meet a bunch of 10th standard students once a week, or if you meet a bunch of young boys and girls once a week, if you meet a bunch of teachers, a bunch of HR managers, or a bunch of any group, a bunch of judicial officers, which I've been training for the last 20 years, you are relaxed because like the police officer who manages a lot of accused, once somebody like you go to him, he is so happy to meet people who are normal, who have not been accused of any offense. Because all of us need human interactions. And though we have human interactions with patients, we need to meet people more than patients. And I would say that right from the start of your practice, like my friend said, partnership with God, start some activity which is community-based. I'm a strong believer of the fact that all educational institutes of psychiatry should have 6 months of community mental health as training in the course of MD psychiatry. They have been bombarded by molecules, receptors, and illnesses. And everything is not about the brain as so many people claim. We need to understand the brain, but we need to also understand that environment influences also act on the brain, which means the job of a psychiatrist is fivefold. He creates awareness. He also is involved in education, conducting workshops. He is involved in treatment. He probably would do some research inside his clinic, some surveys. And fifth is he has to be an advocate of mental health. So we have 5 roles: awareness, education, treatment, some research, and advocacy. So it's very important to understand that if you are a people-based psychiatrist, your mental health is much better. I still remember a lot of people telling me, you are doing wonderful work for the society. Even during the COVID, you have been very active. I tell them I do it for my own mental health. Incidentally, there is awareness. Incidentally, people know about me. And incidentally, that also gets converted into great private practice. But that's not the goal which I began with. And I realize that looking back, looking behind, and viewing it, it's also a very important activity. So to be mentally healthy, you might see 200 patients a day in a village or in a town. You might see 70 patients in a city. But what is very important is break that barrier and see to it that at least once a week you do something which satisfies your soul, beyond satisfying your heart while treating illnesses, also satisfies your soul. But meeting people more than patients really make you feel healthy. A lot of us have EMIs, we have homes, we have hospitals, and we want to pay the EMI much faster. So we tend to exhaust ourselves. But the point is that leads to early burnout. If you have people-based psychiatry, you'll find that you will see more patients than what you actually would see otherwise. Now, in your practice, as you start, we used to read a lot of novels. I still remember the day when any footsteps outside my clinic, I would press the bell and ask my guy outside, Kone. He said, it's not for you, sir. It's for the lawyer across. It took us a long time to even start practice, get few patients, but now it is not so difficult because awareness is very big, and things are much better in terms of private practice. Now, in spite of you being the best practitioner, you are ethical. You use evidence-based medicine, and you do everything right, and still you'll find one of your friends is in deep trouble because of some error he made, probably misdiagnosed. He did something where a lot of people have accused him of something. Will you actually leave him alone? No. Tomorrow it could be you who's targeted by probably the corporate hospital, by people, by patients, etc. I still remember I had a police officer who had a mother who had dementia, and she had issues of vision. She had vision problems, but she also used to hallucinate at night. I gave her very small dose of risperidone, and the belief of the inspector was that because of my medicine, his eyesight went away, and he started creating a lot of nonsense for me. I talked to my colleagues. We came together. We responded to them as a group. Even if you understand that a person practicing across your clinic may not have invited you for his opening because you have that false concept of competition. There is no competition on the earth for mental professionals at all. The more you are, the more is the work for all of us. So when you manage a crisis, whatever crisis, see that you stand up with your colleagues, and if he has done something wrong, see that you slap him in private, but support him in public. Never criticize any of the psychiatrist's prescription. You might see a prescription which is probably unscientific, and you would fail in your MD if you write that prescription. But the point is, the patient who has come to you has done very well with a small dose of these drugs, and probably the psychiatrist, after long experimentation, has come to the right dose. Remember, in practice, we don't only treat illnesses, we treat symptoms. Okay, and what you answered in the MD exam may not actually work for you in your practice all the time. And it's important when you see a prescription, always respect the psychiatrist. And if you want to change the prescription, say whatever he has done, he has given what is best at that point of time. At this point of time, I would like to do this. Never criticize another psychiatrist, even if you don't like him or her. That is important, because when you criticize other psychiatrists, what happens is you are actually hitting down the profession. All of us would make mistakes. All of us would not be able to treat every patient effectively, and that is very important. Sometimes, as a new practitioner, when you get a patient from a senior psychiatrist, you feel so nice. That day is made. My God, he has left a senior psychiatrist come to you. Remember, as your practice grows, you'll see your patients also going to a psychiatrist much junior to you, which is always the case in every practice. Now, as you practice, ask yourself: are you a mental missionary, or are you a mental health mercenary? Very, very important question. Which means what? Which means mental health structures are still being made. Though we have institutes and hospitals where there's structure, a lot of structures are still being made. We still are not very comfortable in asking questions to a child who's been abused. POXO Act is there, but still we are still not comfortable. We are still learning. We're not comfortable with treating a juvenile if he is on the wrong side of law, if he's not, if not in, if he would not fall into the arena of care and protection, but if he's in the arena of conflict law, we still don't have that compassion. We don't have the training to do all this. So which means if we have to establish systems, we have to be mental health missionary, which means we need to influence different influencers in the society, different people across different boards of across different levels and different agencies, so that the mental health systems really improve in the country. And maybe after 30 years or maybe less, people will accept psychiatry as a discipline which everybody needs, and at least 12 to 14% people in the country would need the help of a psychiatrist. So we are at a place when we are building systems in private practice. So having an attitude of a missionary, where you influence people, influence the hospital owner, influence the corporate hospital owner, influence other consultants, influence different groups, is what is extremely important. We are missionaries to convert people so that they understand mental health much more than what they understood 100 years ago. When you ask yourself at times, it's also important to find whether you're a blamer or bloomer. So many doctors come and say neurologists don't understand psychiatry. There's a big discussion. Pediatrics are taking over child psychiatry. Well, a lot of people, and people who blame. I still remember Steve Smith was very upset and angry when India actually beat Australia in those test matches. The pitches were like that. The pitches were turning. All that rubbish. Pant did not blame anybody. He really used the bowling to his advantage and scored a lot of runs. So a mature psychiatrist, the psychiatrist is a missionary. Psychiatrist thinks psychiatry is not only a mechanism to earn money or to fill the coffers of the family or to have a lot of practice and a lot of wealth. Would never be a blamer. He'll be a bloomer. He'll always find ways and solutions around problems, and he will not ever look at, say that, oh, neurologists, you don't understand, oh, cardiologists, they treat panic attacks well, oh, pediatricians, they have taken up child psychiatry. I mean, how dare they take it? They never refer to us. Why? If you're good, you cannot stop the sun from shining. A few clouds can come here and go, but you cannot really stop the sun from shining, which actually means that improve your skills, improve your influence, and improve what you give to a person who comes to you. And that is what our generation or your generation of psychiatrists should think. And if people are contributory towards the welfare of mental health, absorb them into your hug. Professor Senenbig always told me, Harish, mental health is too important to be left to mental health professionals alone. So empower others also to take care of mental issues. A family doctor should be able to treat depression, which is uncomplicated. A physician, MD, should be able to treat depression, which is uncomplicated. All disciplines across the board should be able to treat panic attacks, depression, and anxiety, which are uncomplicated. And they should send only the complicated, severe cases to us. And that should be the rule. And which is why no blaming, actually helping that you bloom. Now, should you practice as an individual? मैं जहाँ खड़ा होता हूँ वहां से लाइन शुरू होती है. No. Those days were different when you had one hero and one villain and one heroine. Now there are a bunch of heroes and it's a team which always wins. And in a hospital, if four psychiatrists join hands and become a team, or in private practice, if you're practicing around in the range of 4 kilometers and you have 10 of you all or 20 of you all, form groups and let other patients know that if I'm not there, you can go to this doctor. Put their names in your prescription paper. Nothing happens. Don't be insecure at all. In my prescription, there's the name of 4 psychiatrists. I'm going to put the names of 10 more psychiatrists across the city of Bombay. And I would say, if you're not happy with me or for any other reason, these are the psychiatrists, good psychiatrists across in different suburbs of Bombay. And remember, when patients see this, they feel secure. They feel, मैं नहीं तो इसके पास जाएंगे. And when you form a group of 4, 5, 10, and you put the names across in your prescription papers, remember, everybody's practice increases. Everybody does well. More patients come to meet this way because patients feel he's so good that he understands our difficulty. And even when he's not there, he's asking me to go. Do I like him? He's asking me to go to the other patient, other psychiatrists during an emergency. How beautiful is that? Teams do very well. There are so many teams across the country doing extremely well. And when you're together, you really do much better. When a patient deserts us, I don't know, Jiten Prasad comes to BJP from Congress. Well, different reasons. But when a patient does it, we feel very bad as a new psychiatrist. You have done so much for the patient. You took the history of the father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, great grandfather, great mother. Well, I knew a lot of time as a new psychiatrist, and you did everything, but still he went to the senior psychiatrist. This is very normal. Remember one thing: when a patient is shaking on his chair, he's asking you difficult questions. Just understand that the decision-making process in the family of health could be a different person. And at that point of time, he is trying to move away from you. At that point, offer him a different opinion. Say that you think you have no faith in me, you would want to go somebody else. I'll refer you to somebody else, and let me help you to see to it that at this point of time, I'll ask you to go to, and we'll both sit down and think what is best for you. That's the best way to deal with the entire situation. Also, what is very important is that if they ask for a second opinion, offer it. Call up the other doctor and really actually tell them the doctor so and so, or sir, I'm referring a patient from my clinic and who wants to see you. So have a look at him and tell me what's the best I can do for the patient. So patients will desert you, nothing wrong. Patients will desert other psychiatrists and come to you, and this perfect. You all are picking up the phone and talking to the psychiatrist is a very good habit which we all need to actually cultivate. At this point of time, I would like to share that every psychiatrist needs to have some amount, some understanding of the laws which are related to mental. I'll name 5 laws which you all need to know. First is the Right to Education Act with its amendments which have happened. Juvenile Justice Act, the new one with its amendments which have happened. POXO, the Prevention of Sexual Offences Act, Child Sexual Offences Act is something we need to actually understand. And fourth is the Mental Health Care Act, which you ought to know, which you need to know. And fifth is the disability. All these 5 acts, the copies of these 5 acts should be in your clinic, because you will face a lot of issues with different patients, and you need to be aware of these acts and read little by little every day so that you understand. Now, I believe in this entire concept of shared opinion and not always second opinion. Even if you are a veteran, it's good to send the patient for a review to a younger psychiatrist, because he'll have a fresh view of the same. I have 2 young girls, psychiatrists who are working in COVID wards. They come and sit with me once a week or twice a week, and I ask them questions. I ask them to read about something and teach me. And the psychiatrist at this age, as he grows, if he keeps his ears and eyes open, say, I don't know this, I would like to learn more about this from different people. That would really convert you from an average skilled person to a really better skilled person. So shared opinion is much better than actually the second opinion, though at times the second opinion from somebody who missed us. Generally, patients, the doctors send patients to their own teachers for second opinion, and also for those who can handle the patients much better. Well, in my time, there was nothing that I could actually do, and 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 as we finished approximately 43 minutes of time, and I finished around 40 minutes of my time in this class. I would like to talk about every psychiatrist should write, speak, post, record, and share. Yeah, don't say, oh, I don't like Facebook. Oh, I'm not, I'm an introvert. I have social media phobia. Remember one thing. You actually, in a globalized world, if you want to create awareness of mental health, you have to be open about mental health. So write, speak, post, record, or share. And that is so important. And use all the available social medias to educate about mental health. Write stories, write knowledge. Write sayings, anything to relate to mental health. Don't write only dark issues of mental health. Write about positive mental health. Write about improving mental health. I post on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram all the time. And don't do it alone. Have a person who can do it for you. Don't hire PR managers. Don't hire Practo and others to get practice. You can do it on your own. Don't allow your ideology and your power to be mortgaged with somebody else. Though you might feel that once you go into Practo or you go into you get a flurry of patients, but they will not last. Do it on your own, because man is a social animal and psychiatrists are powerful social animals. We have enough knowledge in mental health how to pitch our product effectively in the community. We have enough awareness of mental health how to really spread our dragnet for our patients. And the most important thing is, if you enjoy talking to the community, writing about mental health, you will be successful psychiatrist in terms of your practice in no time. Also, when you do all these things, it's also a distraction. It's also a new avenue. And there's joy when you write something beautiful and people also respond to it. It's a joy when you share a small video about yourself on Instagram, or a longer video. I see a lot of young psychiatrists doing that so beautifully, much better than what I do today. And they're there all the time and they do it so well. I would say every psychiatrist across the country, 6,000 or 8,000, should do it. And then you'll find awareness. There's no time to blame, and there's no time to actually say, Koi hamara, no, nobody's listening to me. Well, get married and understand that do not chase money in psychiatry. Let money chase you. And remember that your marriage, you have enough time for your spouse. And I made a mistake by going and telling my wife that I saw so many patients, I gave so many series, and she told me, this is not for you, me. Don't come and share with me stories of patients. You tell me what you can do for me, and that I think is so important. So don't be obsessed with money. Money will chase you. You don't have to chase money. Money is important in life. Remember, it's very important in life, and it's important that you focus on both on your marriage and money. So all this business of work-life balance, I've heard these lectures from many, how to make work-life balance. By work-life balance is a myth. It's a myth. There is no work-life balance. As a young practitioner, the senior practitioners will say, "Jada kaam mat karo," but they were doing this. They were doing the same amount of work which you are doing as of now. Veterans will say, "Ghar pe jao jaldi." Fine, yeah. Naya practitioner, he wants to work a little harder. What is wrong in that? Work-life balance is a myth. Finding balance and imbalance is the truth, which means intensity of contact is more important than the quantity of contacts. You have to go at night to admit a violent patient. You may not have systems when you are early in practice. Once you have systems after some time, you might be able to handle that. You'll have to have a work-life balance, but its imbalance is what is the truth. Finding balance and imbalance is something which is very important. And so don't try to strive to have a complete work-life balance. It never exists. I come back to the entire business of awareness. Practice awareness. Yoga is not an activity post-retirement. Let me be very honest to you, my dear friends. Yoga is an activity from the time the child starts walking till the time the man leaves the earth. Awareness will make you more compassionate. It will give you equanimity and samanta. It will give you fulfillment. And you can practice any form of awareness. Playing a game is also a sense of awareness. Dance is also awareness. Vipassana is also awareness. Mindfulness is something which we know as Vipassana. And the Eastern philosophies have been marketed by the West and they make a big money out of it. But we give Vipassana free of cost. Yogic teachers of yoga in various institutes almost give it free of cost. So a lot of awareness is important, and that That awareness adds the glow to that 5 A's which are meant: affable, available, accessible, affordable, and one more. And when awareness comes on all this five, you'll find that things are much better. I'm inspired by these guys here on the screen, from Baba Saheb Ambedkar to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, to Guru Gobind Singh, who sacrificed 4 kids for the betterment of a country, to Subhash Chandra Bose, who was much more better and much more valiant than many fathers of the nation. And of course, Krishna Vasudev Yadav, my real fan. And with this, I would like to again bring back the first slide, which I would really want to share, and that is let's look at these 6 things: affable, being available, being accessible, being affordable, and skills which are average, which improves as you grow because of awareness. With this, I stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for all your motivational talks. When always I listen to you, I find some newness in the approach, which is something different from the conventional approach. And I'm sure the way you have spoken this time, everybody will be getting benefit out of it. So there are certain questions which some of the doctors have taken, and I'm sure that they will love to listen the replies from you. First is from Yash Singh. He asked that what details relating to the patient history should be written on the OPD prescriptions. These are very valid things, sir, and I'm sure that
I would say write as less as you can if you're maintaining a different note. But if you're not maintaining a different note, write clearly what you think is important about the patient, which would also help the next psychiatrist if he, in your absence, who sees the patient. Also ask the patient whether you should write the details, because sometimes the prescriptions are handled by different relatives in the same family, and so your objective of writing all the details will depend upon uh, whether it helps to improve the care of the patient, whether it helps to give you a lot of information about the patient. But if there is any medical legal issues, and if there is you're also introducing some counseling, it's very important. There are certain details which you feel should be confidential. Please don't write a few lines which helps you to recall the patient once he comes back, if you don't have the notes on the computer. So that is very important. And also ask the patient how much is things which you think we should be writing. And if you don't write on paper, you need to have some notes somewhere else.
yeah. So thank you for this reply. There was another question from Dr. Jain, and he has asked that many times I see some clinician projecting themselves as overconfident, as they say this is what works in the real world. Should that be the approach, or one should be more honest about one's shortcomings in front of the patient?
Well, you don't have to have a reflexive communication. A reflexive communication is, well, 80% improve, 20% will not improve, and you share exactly what is there in the information. Then you have a reactive communication. ये हमको नहीं पता है भाई, improve होगा तो होगा, देखो हम तो पूरा कोशिश करते हैं. Then you have a refractory communication. You don't talk much and you say exactly a little. तुम आइए उसके बाद हम देखेंगे. So sometimes in mental health, you may not reveal everything what you would want to reveal in the first meeting, because incremental exposure of the understanding of the illness is very important. You will not say that he has schizophrenia in the first meeting. You might slowly reveal the diagnosis when the patient is prepared and actually understand the diagnosis. But a chest thumping activity of a physician is not really advisable. मैं हूं ना, कोई चिंता नहीं, तेरे को कुछ नहीं होगा. No, reflective communication is the best way of communication, wherein you are compassionate, your tone is appropriate, and you give hope to the patient, which is reasonable and natural, and you do not paint a very dark picture so that you should not be cornered by the patient and you play safe. No, give reasonable hope, give facts, and be compassionate in your tone, which helps the patient to have confidence in you so that he actually comes back to you. The doctor who plays safe, उसे देखो भाई हमने तो दिया दवाई पर कभी आत्महत्या करिए हमारे हाथ में नहीं है ये इलनेस में 15% पेशेंट इन पूरे जिंदगी में कभी न कभी आत्महत्या कर सकते हैं. That's not the way. I think what is very important is as long as much as you can, reflective communication is much better than reactive communication. Uh, Reflexive communication, a rhetorical communication, or a refractive communication. And that I think is very important. Don't do chest thumping mental health, rara mental health, mayhuna mental health. But at some point of time, when patients are absolutely down, and there's a patient who has been abused by everybody in the family, and the patient has no confidence. There's a time at times you might use the word, "I am there for you. I'll see to it that you'll be out of this." I have enough patients post pandemic where the entire family has been wiped out. 7 people have been wiped out. 5 people have been wiped out. A child at home and both the parents have been wiped out without much of support. At that point of time, I would always say, I will bring you out of this despair. I'll see to it that I'll build a, 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 a sense of support around you by bringing you in touch with others. But I promise you that I'll get you out of this despair and see to it that you don't stop your counseling or you don't stop your assistance. And that I think is very important. Don't exaggerate the limitations. That makes you a very defensive doctor and that brings down the confidence of the patient.
So thank you for this answer. And again, there is a question from Dr. Hari Krishnan. He first of all thanked you for the wonderful talk, and he asked that what is your take on psychotherapy in private practice? I have heard people say that routine consultants are more rewarding than psychotherapy sessions, as the former take much less time.
I think that's a very good question. There's more money in medications and less money in talk. But as far as I'm concerned, I've learned basic REBT, Gestalt, some amount of CBT, and some amount of NLP, basic EMDR, and I do it every time. Now I'm going to do a course on CBT for patients with personality disorders. Psychiatrists should equip them with a lot of knowledge and expertise in psychotherapy as they grow. It's very useful. You may not use CBT as a whole, but you might use principles of CBT when you treat patients of OCD or depression. You might use principles of REBT in some patients who are very anxious. So you may not use the entire construct of psychotherapy in a session. You might use small elements of these, and you'll find that the chat with the patient improves, and you're able to provide little tools for patients. I still remember Professor Raghuram, years ago, 30 years ago, in a class, he said, micro counseling is what psychiatrists should do also in their treatment. And I would say learning psychotherapeutic techniques is very important. But one thing is there's more money in practicing treating bipolar schizophrenia with medication and with less money. But the point is psychotherapy also causes growth of the patient and also your own. So if you want to grow and if you want to experience different vicissitudes of your own personality, understand your own personality and understand the processes in the people's brain, you become much wiser as a psychiatrist, much wholesome and equanimous. And psychotherapy really gives you the joy. I would advise every psychiatrist to do little courses across time and improve their prowess in counseling and psychotherapy also.
Sorry, sir, I was mute. Thank you for this wonderful reply. There was another question from Dr. Kinjal Modi that COVID makes to feel tired. As doctors, what to do for these feelings?
Exhaustion is a very important correlate of COVID, and there could be neurotropic effects. Hypoxia also causes some amount of exhaustion. ACE2 enzyme, angiotensin receptor enzyme, also is involved in certain impact of the brain because of COVID. A partial stroke, also mild hemorrhage is also seen in COVID. If there's exhaustion, pump them with a lot of vitamins. And we feel there are signs of depression, please give them antidepressants. Don't give them pregabalin for the pain. Give them amitriptyline for the pain. They do very well. And a lot of understanding of all the stories when they were in the ICU. A lot of stories in the ICU which are blocked inside the mind really hurts and harms. And it's important for a counseling person also to be introduced. Also, COVID improves in 14 days, but the body takes at least 3 months to improve. So with the help of a physician and a psychiatrist and a psychologist, you could really help a COVID patient exhausted. Don't make the patient run immediately after recovery and start his practice. It's important to understand that there's a lot of evidence now coming of the impact of COVID on different parts of the body and this evidence is seen after recovery. So a minute analysis of what's happening in different parts of the body, along with intervention with the mind. See that they sleep, see that the mood improves by antidepressants, see that some amount of counseling also given, see that the fears are also allayed. So a multidisciplinary team for some patients, a psychiatrist alone for some patients, a psychologist alone for some patients might help a large number of patients who are affected by COVID.
Thank you, sir, for this beautiful answer. The questions are pouring, and once Dr. Harish Shetty is on the forum, there are so many questions. So I'm sure, sir, that we can take it up further.
Of course.
Yeah.
Though Miss Kanvilkar said we will take only questions for 10 minutes, I don't agree with that. We should satisfy the appetite of every person who's asking a question.
True. So Dr. Vadi Rohit has asked that I'm a young psychiatrist. I am trying to be available most of the time, but patient over a period of time call us for every small thing. Where can I draw a line?
Absolutely. When I mean available, that would not mean that it should be available 24/7, or if I say you're accessible, it should not be available 24/7. When I have a system where my patient calls up my clinic, they would not call me up. And I have a phone now, so special phone only for WhatsApp. And I do not allow the patients to call me. Appointment आज का मिलेगा क्या? आप आज अंधेरी में आने वाले हैं क्या? I educate them how to use my phone, and my phone is also used by my boy outside who's educated. But at the same time, when you create a system, it's important to see that emergencies reach you at the earliest, and emergencies. So you need to train your people around you to filter the calls and see that emergencies reach you. And if you and since you're a young psychiatrist, Rohit, if you work with 3 or 4 psychiatrists in your area, and you all are together, you can take calls, emergency calls, say once in 4 days. So you have enough sleep for 6 days a week, and one day somebody else takes the call. So I think that is so important. So do not be available 24/7 to your patients, because it's not necessary. It's actually not necessary. And you don't try to please your patients because you are a young practitioner, because he also comes and says, वो तो साला बहुत Harish Shetty बहुत बड़ा डॉक्टर है, उसे बात करने का ही यानी असंभव है. And don't go by that. Don't fall for that. They will say the same thing about you. So train them how to use their phone. Emergency SMS or WhatsApp, I will call you back. Your systems around you will see that they screen the calls. And as a team of psychiatrists, you'll also help each other when probably you're unwell, or you want to take off with your wife and your family. Somebody else takes a call. Your call is diverted to somebody else. So in that sense, you need to train your patients how to use your phone, and that I think is very, very important. So don't be available 24/7. You'll burn out very, very early, and you'll really create a bad habit among your patients to even talk about simple things. So create a system so that the issues of the patients are addressed, and emergencies are really tackled at the earliest.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure that with this suggestion, most of the doctors will be getting benefit, because nowadays phone is something that anybody picks up and calls the doctor at any point of the time, even if it is not required. So it will be going to help. Your suggestions are going to help most of the doctors attending the program. So you are very much active on the various social media platforms in spite of your busy practice and busy schedule. There is a question, and I'm sure that this will be in those lines, that what would be the ways to reach local community other than the social media, especially in current scenario?
Absolutely. There are little, so there's Kabaddi Sparda Committee, Ganesh Utsav Committee, Saint Vincent de Paul group in the church. In the masjid, they have different committees. So CBOs, community-based organizations, are also very important. Reach out to them. If you are new in practice, go once a day, once a week to a school and say, I'm available to give you a free talk. Go to a community based organization से आपके यहाँ 7 दिन का 10 days का जो है ना वो दसरा है उसमें एक दिन हम आपको mental health के बारे में free में बताएंगे. So do all this little work in slums and in communities for people who are not accessible. But remember, the penetration of the digital media is very strong, but also see that you reach out to the poor, because poor do not reach out to you because they don't know how to access you. In fact, Amartya Sen said that in the Bihar famine, people died not because there was no food, because people did not know how to access the food which was available. So please, I'm very happy with this question. Please reach out to people beyond the media and in your own area, in your own mohalla, the mosque, the church, the temple, and small cricket committees, kabaddi committees, hututu committees, and then you'll find that it's not practice alone; it's the joy of sharing mental awareness that's much bigger than what you probably earn, and you'll earn very well in your practice.
Thank you, sir, for giving the such a wonderful tip on how to reach even through the smaller platforms and go for the dissipation of the mental health awareness. So there's another question from Dr. Kinjal Modi, that what is simple psychological support a consultant can give to the patient, example TB, MDR-TB, patient on long-term treatment or ILD, etc.
I think arousal of hope, optimism about the illness, improving the mental health at that point of time, creating a lot of distraction around the illness by helping them to play little things which they can actually do, helping them to smile and take the pills with joy, and improving their self-talk. हम अपना टाइम आएगा इसको भी हम मात कर सकेंगे. That's enough. And what is very important, doctors, don't feel very apathetic or very numb when you see somebody who's severely ill. Wear a smile even at that point of time, because that actually heals. And when we assume the entire mode of a symmetry in our mind, things get worse. So whenever you see MDR, TB, fourth stage cancer, give hope so that whatever life the person has, he will live beautifully, or he might be able to beat the illness also. And when you smile at the patient gets healed. And when he has a faint smile on his cheek, around his lips, you also get healed. So be a part of the healing process. We cannot define how long people can live, but we can always cheer up people to live as well as they can in the span of time they would be alive. So taking care of your own mental health is so important. So your sleep, your CSR, your own CSR activity, your kindness, your compassion, your prayers, your yoga, and your physical exercise is very important.
So thank you for this beautiful answer. I'm sure that it will be satisfying the query of Dr. Kinjal. Another question is from Dr. Jad Ahmed, and this is, sir, one thing which will be coming to most of the young doctors, that sometimes there is a critical illness which has been diagnosed to the patient, and it is sometimes you don't find the way how to communicate with the peer group of the people or the relatives. So he's asking, sir, how to convey information regarding severe mental illness when one of the partner is newly married couple and recently came to know about his this pre-existing illness.
Always share the information with both of them in an incremental manner. Don't give a catastrophic prognosis about the illness to any couple. Say, for example, a man comes and says his wife is mentally ill, and man says he discovered some tablets in the closet, and she was taking tablets, and they had not informed him. And then in honeymoon, she revealed everything, that she was ill for the last 2 years, and man is very angry at that point of time. Give rational optimism to the husband to see to it that he is able to take care of her during the time of crisis. As the husband involves the family, educate the family, reveal all the details to the husband so that treatment can be optimized. Uh, also, remember, you are not the person to advise whether he should leave his wife or the wife should leave her husband. You are the person who would give, this is the chance of recovery. This is what she can do across, or he can do across life. This is a chance of pregnancy. This is a risk of pregnancy. And then let them do what they feel is like. They will push you and say, "Tum batao, tum hamare jagah par hote to kya karte?" At that time, tell him that hypothetically, I cannot be in that state and I can't think for you at all. It's you who have to take a decision. Do not talk to the husband alone all the time. And when the two families come to talk to each other, talk to them together, because when you talk to somebody alone, there's a Chinese whisper which goes, and doctor ने बोला था कि तुमने हमको नहीं बताया, उन्होंने बोला था कि आपको दे दो डिवोर्स, डॉक्टर पाओगे कोर्ट में. Your job is to help treat the girl or the boy who has mental illness and who has not revealed it to the spouse. Rest, I think the family can do what is best, and but at the same time, do not exaggerate the negatives. Do not give a catastrophic prognosis. Give information which will help the person to take care of this mentally ill person, because we are biased towards the welfare of the mentally ill, and that is important. Sometimes you'll get a call from a GP. हमने इस साइकेट्रिस्ट के पास गए तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये है दवा, आपको क्या लगता है? ये हमारी संबंधी वो शादी करने वाले हैं, ये क्या दवा है? वो है ना, वो छोकरी वो पिटापिन लेती है, तो आपको क्या लगता है, क्या डायग्नोसिस है? यू शुड से आई डोंट नो. Unless you examine the patient, you should say, actually, you do not know. So our entire philosophy is, we are biased towards the welfare of our patients. We are not in the position to judge whether the spouse should accept the other spouse or not. At whatever happens, our entire bias should be to treat the patient to the best of one's ability. Don't get caught in this wars. And if you're called, and sometimes what happens is they come only once and they don't come at all, and the spouse is left at the house of the girl for whatever reason. Then there's a court case. Then you're called. You can always say that they've come only once. I do not know exactly what happened. They were advised to come again, and I do not know what is the diagnosis. My bias is towards helping the patients who are mentally ill. At the same time, I'm also sympathetic to people who have been not told about the illness at all, and who are facing a lot of pain because of the non-cooperation of the family of the girl or the boy who's mentally ill.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, two questions which I'm seeing, which you have already answered, that how to start and whom to approach for community services, which you have beautifully answered in your previous
Yes,
thing.
yes. Go reach out. I
Yeah.
would say just reach out. Don't wait for them to come in. I'll tell you, I'm supposed to take a class in a hospital for all other consultants. And these consultants have a lot of work because they're full timers in the different hospital where I don't work. I told them, what are you doing in the OPD? If you don't have patients, walk into a school and say, you're a surgeon. Just walk into a school and say that I'm going to talk to your children about how the stomach absorbs the food. I would tell them in a story from how it reaches from the superficially of the stomach just up to all the blood vessels in a form of a story. Do that. Don't lie. Don't get bored. Don't gossip when you don't have work. The people who have no work, they gossip, and when they gossip so much that they lose interest also in their work. So what is very important is mental professionals. Human being is a social animal. Psychiatrists are very powerful social animals. They know how to pitch their product very well because they have some knowledge of psychology and psychiatry. So use it to the best of your ability when you're young. Don't sit down and blame that you don't have patience. Go out, go after it, reach out, and don't wait for people to really come to you.
Thank you, sir. And again, there is a question which you have already, a portion you have answered. From this question is from Dr. Colin Braganza. Uh,
Phone numbers to clients. See,
yeah,
if you have a system in your hospital of somebody else to take the phones and they will filter, then there's no need to give phone numbers to clients. But I give phone numbers to clients, actually those who are very suicidal, they refuse to get admitted. And then I would want them to tell me what happens in the next few days. And I would tell them, please WhatsApp, I'll call if necessary. So if you have somebody else to handle your phone, that would be the best. But in case of emergency, you're giving the phone numbers would be very good. You ask them to send emails, but a lot of people don't know how to send emails. But even emails are very good. If at all you read the emails and you respond to them, it's very difficult. So the best is having a system, somebody who handles your phone, or you have a phone which is only for WhatsApp of the patient, only for WhatsApp, and you don't at all you receive calls. Then you see the WhatsApp and you respond to those which is absolutely essential. You ignore a lot of others which is not essential. And if somebody says aapka appointment chahiye, you have to tell them, see, these are the numbers to fix up an appointment, and please do not really call me again or SMS me again and again. It would not help. So create a system so that you are not burdened and still the work actually goes on.
So there's another question from Dr. Madhur Rathi. What should be the motto of a young psychiatrist in the first 5 years of passing out?
Well, the motto is the same across the next 20 years. Number one, be aware, be available, be accessible, be affordable, and see to it that your average skills become higher. Number one. Number two, see to it that you are a people-based psychiatrist and not a patient-based psychiatrist. See, all those things of the IMA doctors, IMA leaders, हम पहले practice कराएंगे, हम फिर घर करेंगे, फिर अस्पताल बांधेंगे, फिर 4 गाड़ियां लेंगे, उसके बाद IMA president बनेंगे, उसके बाद सेवा करेंगे. So many people say हम बाद में सेवा करेंगे, रिटायर होने के बाद हम ये गौशाला शुरू करें. No, partnership with God has to start from the first day of practice. पहले हफ्ते में एक दिन निकल जाओ यार, समाज में घूमो, मजा आएगा. आप mental health missionary, so that has to be there in the first 5 years of practice. Number two, see to it that you keep your eyes, ears, and your antenna on to learn as many new things as you can. See to it that you also, in the first 15 years of my practice, 10, 15 years, I worked for 1 year at Latur, 6 months at Kandla, and 6 months also at the riot-affected areas of Gujarat. And that's easy for them to go. Once you cross 20 years of practice, then you find it difficult because you are the responsible. So in the first 5 years, dare, go, learn different things, work in your clinic, be available, but at the same time do other things which will satisfy you, but also which will build your skill set, and it will give you a world's viewpoint about different issues apart from mental health. And it's so important for all of us, all psychiatrists, to have conversational skills. They should know something about religion, about culture, about literature. They should be able to converse beyond symptoms of mental health, beyond symptoms of mental health. They should be also very literate about what's happening in geopolitics across the world and across the country. So a lot of information of all other areas of life is important to keep effective. So first 5 years, go for it.
Yes, sir. So one question which has come, I think, is a very, very relevant and a genuine problem sort of question. Your patients are not for 7 days, 10 days patients, they come for years. And the question was that it has been addressed that, sir, your session was great. I would like to ask how to keep a track of the detail of a patient. Many patients forget old prescriptions. Should we keep a personal journal or software which is more practical?
Software is really more practical. I would advise all young psychiatrists to have a software so that you have information about the patient. It will help you in medical legal issues, and sometimes the softwares crash, so you can't help it. But at the same time, it's important that even if patients lose you have some information. But even if you don't have information, it's important that they come back with new information. You can treat them. Remember, an appendix is treated once, and what a surgeon earns is just once. And we have patients of schizophrenia who run our kitchens, who run our holidays, who run our children's education, and all the other goodies you have, and they come to us for life, and they pay you more than what they pay a surgeon at one go. So it's our responsibility to probably start a support group of patients, probably start a rehab center if you like, and probably do a little more and give back to the community what you have earned from this patient. And do not start something very big 20 years from now. Start little even when you start your own practice. Software is better.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful reply. Another question is from Dr. Akanksha Malhotra. She asked that how to handle a situation where child abuse is suspected but family is not ready to report or discuss about it.
Well, if you are mandated to actually inform the police, so I'll tell you a story. There was this young child who was abused by his grandfather, and the child would come and share every gruesome detail at the age of 2.5. Now, those days, POXO had just come, and I did not report it. And then the grandfather was separated. He was treated separately. The child was also treated by psychologists and me, and the child improved. After that, the couple went for a divorce, and in the divorce petition, the mother wrote that we had taken the child to the psychiatrist, but he had not reported it, and he had not filed, he had not reported the police, and that became an issue. I could wriggle out by saying that they did not follow up, and I did not have enough information. But I think it's mandatory to inform, because a lot of pressure from the close ones only, but a small email to the police that this is the patient who have come, and this is what I've been told. It's your job to investigate, and I would say mandatory reporting. There are a group of people who are fighting against mandatory reporting. A lot of activists are really fighting against mandatory reporting, and I don't know when they would win, because they say that if there's mandatory reporting, what happens is the child would not come for any treatment, and the issues are not healed. Now, having said this, I would say use the process of mandatory reporting and have a group of and be part of a group of child psychologists and child psychiatrists who are in association, so that they can also assist you in mandatory reporting. But all those kids under 16, under 18 who have consensual sex, there's no need to report, because POXO and even the High Court is slow on activities which are very, very consensual. But what happens is, say, for example, a girl and a boy absconds at the age of 16, and they have a honeymoon outside, and then they come back. Sometimes the girl's side would file a case against the boy of rape, and then you are called to say what is the truth, and your certificate that you have really interacted with both, and it was under 18 consensual sex. Generally the boy is so under 18. If there's consensual sex, it's not abuse largely, and both would need counseling. But any child who's abused by an adult inside the family, outside the family, and there's evidence, and in your interview, in your skills of elicitation, you have found this evidence, the law says that you need to mandatorily report. And at that point of time, seek support from your group of child psychologists and child psychiatrists, and see that you're not alone. And because there's a lot of pressure, see that you share your anxiety with others, but report. The close relative would get very angry. They might not come to you again, but that's perfectly all right. I've been a witness to so many cases in POXO across time, and a lot of pressure you face. But when you face a lot of pressure, you have friends to help you to relieve the pressure. In fact, there were two famous cases, Panvel and Kalyan or Pane and Panvel orphanage cases, which we investigated. I was a part of the Bombay High Court committee, which we investigated on behalf of the special squad of the Bombay High Court. And these were cases where we retrospectively evaluated the rapes done on mentally retarded children by people who run the home, and most of them were convicted. I had faced a lot of stress. My psychologist faced a lot of stress. Psychologists became depressed. I had to do a lot of vipassana, and in the court also, every interaction or every cross-examination was very, very brutal, very heavy. But the point is, friends, vipassana, yoga, family, and my dear colleagues also always help us. And what happened at the end? Do you feel, and when everything stops and sinks, do you feel sad? No. You feel exhausted, but you have learned a lot across the cross examinations. You have learned a lot across the examinations of all the children with the help of the psychologists, psychiatrists, me, and others. And you become much wiser than the day-to-day psychiatrist who treats with antidepressants, Alchemca, who treats with antipsychotic Alchemca. And you become a psychiatrist much sharper, much better, much humane, and much more skilled.
So, in fact, this was one of the wonderful replies that most of the people wanted to know. And thanks to Dr. Akanksha for putting up this question. Next question, which is there from Dr. Bendy Sairam. He just wanted to take your opinion that which practice is better, whether it is an individual psychiatry or a group of psychiatrists.
Always group is always better. In fact, even if you are not a group in a clinic, There are so many groups now in India, in Pune, in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, so many places, and they're doing very well. As long as you're able to adjust, as long as you're able to manage the sharing of the money, and as long as you are able to be friends across time, it's good. But even if you are not in a group in a clinic, it's if you are in a group in a clinic, you can go for holidays and etc., and your burden on yourself is less. Even if you are a group in a mohalla in an area, for a facility, get out to meet every month, have a cup of coffee, and see that all four of you put their names of each other in your prescription. Nothing happens. I'll tell you, all four will increase increase your practice, and see to it that you help each other. You keep in touch with each other, and you also look at those patients who hassle you, because they would all hassle the other, and you'd be careful if they come and hassle you too. So a bunch of 4 or 5 psychiatrists practicing area, if they're together, let me tell you, your anxiety is less, your burnout will not happen, your family life will be much better, and your skill set slowly would develop to a very great extent. There is no competition in mental health. There's no insecurity. There's enough for everybody on this earth.
So thank you for this wonderful suggestion to the young psychiatrists, especially those who are going to initiate their practices. So there's a very nice question which I was just thinking that how you will reply. You are always available to the people. The way you give reply to the people. So Dr. Ritvik Chatterjee has asked, sir, how do you keep boundaries and handle patients who tend to ask personal questions? And another thing, what he wanted to know, how he can reach to you if he has further question or need your guidance.
Oh, my number, you take it from your Alchem man and take my phone number. Please send me a WhatsApp. We'll fix up a time to talk and we'll definitely be in touch. But remember, I refer patients to many psychiatrists who are away. I have at least 14 to 15 psychologists whom I refer patients. I am the center half of hockey. Ajit Pal Singh was the great center half of. He would pass the ball to the center forward. There's no need for me to hit to really hit all the goals for the team. So a good center half has a lot of people around. So I have enough work, a lot of work. I do not know the number of the psychologists whom I refer, and the number of psychiatrists whom I also actually refer my patients across the country. Across the country, so many people say, मैं उधर रहता हूँ, मैं यहाँ आऊँ बम्बई आओ, मैं तो मत आओ यार, वहाँ मेरे दोस्त लोग हैं, उनके पास चले जाओ. And so I am Ajit Pal Singh, the center half of hockey of the Indian team in psychiatry, and it's so important to have teams of psychologists, family educators, and sometimes they do more work for the patient because they need more counseling than they need medication. So always understand that the team always wins. Individually, you don't win. मैं जहाँ खड़ा होता हूँ वहाँ से line शुरू होती है. That is not something which is good. I think teams always win. And also Dr. Ritik Chatterjee can always take my number and SMS me. I'll call him back. I think either I'm frozen or you guys are frozen.
I think sir, Madan sir is frozen. I'll take up the question. There is another question by Dr. Angadi Varsa. She is asking how to develop better communication skills, especially when patient is psychotic with no insight.
Well. It's so important to listen to the psychotic with no insight if he's not violent. Huh? So he'll tell you about hallucination, and most of the times I agree with the delusion. I agree with the hallucination so that I can actually improve the compliance of the patient for medication. They say, I don't want to take any medicine. I agree with the delusion. हाँ, मुझे पता है कि तुम्हारे विरुद्ध कुछ किसी ने किया है, पर मैं आपको ऐसा गोली दूंगा जिससे आपके शरीर के ऊपर पूरा फिल्म बनेगा, ताकि उनका जो कुछ करनी है, जो कुछ भला है, आपके शरीर में बिल्कुल नहीं घुसेगा. मुझे पता है कि उन्होंने आपके विरुद्ध कुछ किया है. एंड देन आप सिर्फ 7 दिन लीजिए दवाई, उसके बाद देखेंगे. एंड come what may, do what you can that they take. I would not say वो तो सब भ्रम है. So I would say listen to the most irrelevant talk. Your communication skills will automatically improve. It improves because you reflect, you respond what is best required in the given situation. Every psychotic patient without insight may not be the same. Some might have little support, some might have a lot of support. People with a lot of support, you don't need to communicate, you need to give medication so that they improve and the communication improves with them. But people who have very less support and you do not want to take any medications, engage in a conversation, get into the frame of reference as much as you can. You may not succeed with every patient, but sometimes agreeing with the hallucination, accepting the delusion, accepting all the irrelevance as normal is extremely important for you to ensure compliance of the patient. Thank you for that lovely question.
Sorry, sir, that I got disconnected for a couple of minutes and I was not here.
Yeah, आपका mistake नहीं है. Technology.
Yes, sir. In fact, it was a brief load shedding and Wi-Fi has gone. So,
Yes, sir, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I think again, sir, is frozen. Another question is, sir, any instances where you noticed?
So there was another beautiful question, that any instances where you noticed a good characteristic of a psychiatrist that particularly contributed to their success. Any
Santosh, you have to help me.
Yeah, sir, the question is any instances.
Years of observation.
Sir, your voice is broken, so I'll take up the question.
Yes.
Any instances where you noticed any good characteristic of a psychiatrist that particularly contributed to their success? Any anecdotes, stories from your years of observations?
I have psychiatrists who are doing well, who are hardworking, who do not criticize their colleagues at all, and who mine gold from every conversation. As a young doctor, you feel very upset and angry very easily. I used to also be like you guys, very upset and angry at my colleagues very easily. But if somebody would have been there at that point of time, would have actually told me that equanimity and samanta is one of the most important attributes for a psychiatrist. I would have done a lot of awareness activities then, but I did it much late in life. So hardworking, equanimity, not criticizing every psychiatrist, and mining gold from every conversation. Any psychiatrist who has worked for more than 5 years would have something new to say. You cannot say usko kuch aata nahi, usko kuch evidence based nahi aata hai. Whereas any psychiatrist, so if your antennas are sharp, you learn small things from everybody. And there's no shortcut to hard work, but at the same time, being affable, being available, being accessible, being affordable, and being aware are the only doors of success. But there are some psychiatrists who have made a lot of money and have a large practice, but you would not want to be like them. So you can use your skills and see that your values are intact, and earning money is very easy, but earning a name and money is not so easy. So you need to be on track and see to it that you imitate people who are value-based practice. Remember, never share your wallet, always share your knowledge.
Sir, the another question is by Mubina Sirajuddin. Thank you, sir, for the beautiful session. Can you please explain about certification for psychiatric illness in private practice?
Absolutely. I think first of all, you need to ask as a patient to write to you by email, why do you want a certificate, and what is the use of this entire certificate, and then you can add that my client has asked me a certificate about wellness and to be given to the employer. My client has asked me a certificate to be given to the registrar to release my property. So the objective of wanting a certificate has to be very clear. Number one. Number two, never give a certificate to the close relative of the patient, come what may. Sometimes a mother is severely sick and the sons want to really get bank accounts to be open so that they can remove the money and they can treat the mother. And the mother is completely sick, and you don't have to give the testamentary capacity for the bank, but the mother is fit to really sign a certificate. After all investigation, you find that the testamentary capacity is not up to date. You have to write what is factual. Do not give a certificate for a phone consultation unless you're very sure that the person has come to you and you're sure about the certificate. Also, as some people would say, for example, if a woman falls sick and the husband is not aware that the woman is sick. Sometimes the father-in-law comes and says that ये शादी के बाद तुम्हारे वजह से वो हुआ बीमार, हमको लिख के दो. Don't do all that. You can always investigate, do all the tests and see that this point of time when I saw the patient had this illness, but the patient also revealed that she has taken treatment at this year, on this year. Put it down and be very honest about what you are putting. So honesty about what you're putting. Don't write, if somebody has bipolar, don't write only depression. If somebody has schizophrenia, please don't write only anxiety to save a job. Put what is factually there. And at times it is very important that you don't rush to give a certificate. Don't sell a certificate. Allow them to buy it from you, in the sense that you are not paid, but you write her certificate is honest, give it to the patient, see to it that you are not in a hurry to give a certificate.
Sir, the another question is by Dr. Saju John. Sir, how to make a soft bipolar patient who denies the problem to initiate medication?
There's no shortcut, but we have repeated conversations and introduce the pill very slowly and say that it's for a short time, then we can talk again and we agree. And if it actually does not work, and the patient refuses to take medication, but there's a heavy emergency in the house because of the bipolar, there's a lot of trauma to the family, I would not hesitate to give surreptitious medications at all, because I believe in palm tree justice. And if this soft bipolar becomes hard bipolar and is violent and is spending money, I would not wait for any communication skills. I would not wait for any compliance. I would not wait for consent. I would use all the provisions of the mental health care act. And if the mental health care act is not with me, I would not hesitate to give surreptitious medications in the best interest of the patient with the family.
Sir, one more question is there, Dr. Raghavendra Wagode. Sir, individual psychiatric IPD setup better or admitting in multi-specialty hospital is better?
It entirely depends. When you admit patients in a multi-specialty hospital, you create awareness of mental health among different consultants, among nurses, and among so many others. At the same time, the stigma of the patient is much less, because he feels he's not in a psychiatric ward and he's in a general ward. But if you have somebody who's extremely violent, and if you need very specialized counseling, which is happening in a psychiatric setup where you have a lot of psychologists who do group therapies, individual therapies, and there's a lot of systematized therapeutic input which the patient would need along with others, then it's important that the patient gets admitted in a psychiatric setup where all the facilities are there. If the patient is depressed, anxious, good to get admitted in a multi-specialty hospital. There are advantages. You improve the awareness of the other consultants in the multi-specialty hospital to mental health. And if you need more of therapy, you get admitted to IPD where there are more systems available for the patient.
Sir, apart from this, there are a lot of appreciative messages appreciating your secret of energy since last 20 years by Meena Zafar Nasirabadi. Then Dr. Kinjal Modi is appreciating your time and patience to interact with doctors. And a lot of doctors have asked for the recording of the session. So these are some messages.
I'll be very happy to also see the entire recording, and I'll be very happy if you share it with me. I'll upload it on YouTube. And I would genuinely thank all the doctors who have joined here. Remember, India is on the threshold of a great tomorrow, and you are their architect. I am learning a lot from these young doctors who post reels on Instagram. How beautifully they do. I am really happy to see a lot of videos by young doctors. They do it much more beautiful than what I do. I learn a lot from you guys, and remember, go for it. 21st century is our century. It's a mental health century. 1 out of 7 people are mental ill, and 84% of people who are normal will want to come and meet you or meet a psychologist. Don't abuse psychologists, don't abuse psychiatrists, work with them. We all make mistakes, but we help everybody to grow together. And that I think is very, very important. One sec, sir, any metaphors that you use to explain? I use a lot of metaphors with all the patients. It comes very spontaneously. It will come to you also. And I'm sure you are also using, Saju, a lot of metaphors in Malayalam or in whichever place you are living. And it comes automatically. The metaphor has to be very close to the culture of the person for him or her to be hit. and to reflect. And that I think is extremely important. You can use metaphors from everyday life, can use metaphors from religion, from religious books, and you can use metaphors from politics. You can use metaphors from anything and everything. Do it, but sometimes when you find the metaphors fall, then you find that you need to find a new metaphor. But if you take the risk of using a metaphor, you will actually discover many more metaphors. Thank you, Saju, for that beautiful question.
Doctors.
I would still say, remember, not one mentor, multiple mentors. Listen to all of the practitioners like me and others, and learn gems from everybody, mine gold from every conversation.
Sure, sir. And